Welcome to the Visual Cast. Coming at you from California, I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. We chat about life, art, visuals, software, hardware, systems, crystals, alien downloads, spirituality, and catalysts. It's essentially a massive nerd out. But the guests also do a set where we dive into their computer and get an up-and-close look at how they make art, how they perform art, or really anything they want to share with us. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. To support us, please like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and leave us a review on Spotify. Now, without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Welcome to Visual Cast. We are back, better than ever. And this week we have a very special guest, quite the talent, a super aesthetic and visual mastermind, an amazing technical and creative director, and I'm very excited to have him on. Welcome to the podcast, Tiago Marinho.
Thanks for having me. Quite the introduction, but yeah.
It's the least I can do. I mean, you know, I've been looking through your work just to get ready for this, and it's really great, dude. Like, you should be super proud of your work. I'm just going to kind of scroll through it here while we kind of introduce you a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's just some of your stuff is just striking and interesting and evoking, you know, and I feel like art that can make you feel something with just an image is real, you know, like that's a really hard thing to do. And you have a very distinct style. Like, there's an obvious style that you have. I'd love to kind of talk to you about that. Where do you get this kind of aesthetic from? Where the inspiration for this kind of organic / machine / sci-fi / you know, metallic liquid come from?
It's, I guess, a bit like the combination of me like everything that comes through my mind. It's funny you mentioned that I have like a specific style or a very defining style because I always feel like, well, I mean, right now I'm actually making a lot of stuff with those plastic bags, but usually I'm always like jumping around and always like bettering on myself because I can never find my specific style. But I guess that it's a combination of me liking to be like hands-on with my art, even though it's very digital, of course. I like to grab my Wacom tablet and draw everything, and pretty much every single like mask of those is designed by hand. So
No
I
way.
guess that's where the organic comes from.
So interesting, because, you know, I come from the generative art and you know, procedural math generated kind of world, and it just kind of looks like that in a way. You know, that's a huge compliment. I hope you take it as that, because it kind of, you know, you're managing to replicate or emulate nature with your hands, and I love that you can get to this like procedural feeling look with your by hand. That's actually super interesting. I can't wait to talk to you about that.
I guess that's like the benefit from not being very technical. So yeah, man. I swear, like, I open ZBrush, the software I sculpt in, and I just grab the Wacom and I'm like, not knowing what I'm doing, like drawing on a sphere and then extracting the drawing from the sphere. and you know, stuff happens. That's it, pretty much.
Do you do anything to get into like the mode? I mean, is there music or vibes, or is there some sort of something that you do to get into the mode?
Honestly, I listen to a lot of music like all day, every day, but I'm a bit of a like I hate the expression workaholic, you know.
Mm.
Uh, I'm always working, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I need to create something, if not every day, like almost every day.
Mm.
Otherwise, I feel like I'm not doing enough.
Interesting. It's really
Yeah,
a little bit of a gift and a curse, huh?
it's a gift and a curse, yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting. So, where did this come from? Where did Tiago, sorry, where did
Tiago,
Tiago
yeah.
get his, I started to talk about you in the third person, but where did you get your, kind of, inspiration from? Like, what is the origin story? I know you grew up in Portugal, or you're from Portugal.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that. What was it like growing up in
Okay.
Portugal? What is it like growing up living in Portugal? And where did this all come from?
Honestly, it's amazing. It's a small country, not a lot of people, but it's super nice. I wouldn't change Portugal for any country, honestly.
Nice.
Um, and I've I've been making art ever since I was a kid. Um, I think I've always wanted to be a designer or like art related, or have like an art related job ever since I
Mm.
was like I don't know seven or eight. When I was in school, we were supposed to go to like not classes, but we had like a. I'm sorry. Can we go back? Um, Jeez, how do I say it in English?
Like in your
we had
school, you had
like
something
we had a person
after
who was
school,
no during school we had
during
someone
school,
who trying to help
like a
us like
mentor.
find like a mentor. Yeah, back in school we had like a mentor to help us choose a career pretty much. And I remember like
Gotcha,
in like
gotcha.
seventh grade I was like I don't need this. I'm going to art school, and that's what happened. I I went to college for communication design. I hated I hated it so much, like the weirdest 3 years of my life. Um, it was so old school, like all analogic, which is fine, of course. It's
Mm-hmm.
college, you gotta learn
Mm-hmm.
everything. But I just felt like I think it was last year. I was like, if I leave college now, I'm not getting a job because I don't know how to do anything. I didn't learn how to do anything in college.
Interesting.
So yeah, I had a friend there who was like crazy at 3D, and I was like, well, I want to do that, you know. So that's like my origin story pretty much. I started doing 3D on a Microsoft Surface, who that would
Nice.
like catch fire
Ch-
during renders,
chug.
but yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So you went to school, but um, you didn't really you're self-taught in terms of 3D and like this
Yeah,
kind of ZBrush modeling and stuff like this.
yeah. All self-taught. Yeah. YouTube
That's
is
amazing.
my best friend when it
Yeah,
comes to learning. So,
for sure. Especially
hmm
nowadays. I mean, you know, there's so much information out there. There's so much,
yeah,
like tutorials and Patreons that you can join, and people are so, especially in our world, people are so giving with their techniques. There's so much
yeah.
sharing of techniques,
There's no
and
gatekeeping, so it's
there's no
amazing.
gatekeeping. It's really amazing. It really is. Not a lot of industries are like that. I think now with the not so nice word AI, we can benefit from being able to ask the AI how to do things. I don't really like AI as a tool to make art, but I love
Yeah,
AI
same.
as a tool to learn and as a tool to um, like emphasize my curiosity. If I want to learn
hmm
something new, or if I want to understand something deeper, or I do a lot of coding and a lot of scripting, and I don't have any knowledge or background of computer science or anything like that. So having a tool like an AI that I can just be like coming up with an abstract idea, and it can
Yeah,
output for me, a 95% thing that's ready to go is so beneficial. And I think that it kind of
I feel the
translates.
same here. Yeah.
Yeah, it translates. It translates to art as well. I often find myself having a question. I'm a Blender boy, so no shade to your cinnamonists, but
No,
yeah,
I'm turning into a Blender boy as well. So
okay.
Jesus.
Yay!
Yeah.
I often find myself, going on. I use Claude, but just like a stream of consciousness asking the question, because like a lot of times when you have to do a Google search to find something, you really need to know exactly what you're searching for. You need to kind of have the idea, and sometimes it's a lot more. It's almost like it takes you out of the flow, like, oh, you're stuck in something, you're stuck, and you have to think, like, what am I stuck on? And then emphasize it into like a Google search. But with the AI, you can kind of stay in your stream of consciousness. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't give you good answers. But a lot of times it helps me to just, stay in the zone. And I find that really valuable.
Even like a bad answer from AI can help you. So it's like you said. I don't like AI as an art tool, but it just makes our life so much easier. Like coming up with a storyboard, or I don't know, like the base concept for a campaign.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like going to Midjourney and typing stuff and waiting, like expecting to have AI doing everything for me, but it's so useful.
Yeah.
Just so useful.
It's really useful. And again, it's, when you're not using it for the final product and you're just using it to ideate or come up with different designs, then it's a really good exercise in expression and like and what's the word? But like putting things into words. What's the word to put things into words? Yeah. Being able to not express. The word is escaping me. But like using words to explain yourself. And that's a really good skill for artists, especially when you go into commercial work, right? Where you have to, after you've sold the thing, you have to be able to, you work with a team or work with a creative director or work with people. And, people unfortunately are kind of stupid and they don't understand visions and ideas. Not everybody, but some people, especially in the corporate world,
Especially people. Especially the people from the corporate world responsible for
artists.
For artists.
Sure.
No shade.
For sure. No shade. No, definitely.
No shade.
Work with Tiago. He's awesome.
Please.
Okay, so interesting. So you always kind of wanted to be an artist. Did this? Do you have somebody in your family that you were kind of working around, or what kind of struck you as a child that made you feel like this is your calling?
Kind of hard to tell, honestly. My mom kind of like her job is not related to art, but she always been like a very artsy person. But I honestly I don't know. I've always found myself drawing. It's not that I'm not like the most communicative person. It's the most cliche story you can imagine. But yeah, just I could spend like 5 hours drawing. So. It's always been like the escape from reality.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, lately, I haven't drawn in like 10 years because of college. College made me hate drawing, but
really?
But
was it it was a fine arts? You were studying fine arts?
Fine arts, yeah. That's
wow.
Because like Portugal is very small. I mean, very small comparing to the US, of course. We are like 10 million, so 10 million people. So we have like 2 fine art schools, college, and I think what I wanted to study was only available in like 2 or 3 public colleges, so that's it.
Interesting.
So there's not a lot of choice,
And without triggering you too much, because obviously I see that it's a sensitive subject, but what was...
I like to talk about it, so.
Okay, what was...
I mean, I know that the majority of it's from me. It's just the way they taught was just not like compatible with me, because I'm like hands-on, self-taught. I like all that. So learning stuff that I felt like it wouldn't help me in the future
Interesting.
kind of annoyed me, you know.
Interesting. Did it allow you to? Because I have a similar. I also didn't like my school so much. I went to film school, but it was inside of a fine arts school,
Okay.
so it was a lot of like art history and philosophy and a lot of classes
Yeah.
that weren't had nothing to do
Same.
with what I was learning, but kind of were actually my favorite parts of the school because it, like I'm not like so scholared in art. I read a lot, but it's more like fiction and politics and science and things like this, and not like art history. Like I would have learned art history more than watching some YouTube videos if I didn't go to art school, and I can't really say that it like made a huge impact on me as an artist, but it definitely broadened my like vision. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah, yeah, of
I always
course.
go back to this one class that was Egyptian film. And like we watched like tons of Egyptian film and like went through like the history of Egyptian film, and I always look at that class as like I discovered so many interesting facets of Egyptian culture that I never would have, been interested in, and B, discovered. So that was always kind of like something that I always appreciated in my schooling. But yeah, I also never really connected to this kind of like classroom setting.
Yeah.
Was there something for you that really like stood out that was a positive in school?
Um, well, that's a tough question, honestly. I remember loving typography because I had an amazing teacher. He was just. Why was he amazing? Because he was in the industry. He was working.
An experience.
He was very experienced. He used to work in London. He had a lot of projects here in Portugal. And it's different when you're in college. You're like 3 years away of going to work for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And seeing someone so passionate about his work and
It's inspiring.
it's so inspiring, yeah. But overall, besides that amazing teacher, it was just like people who finished college and stayed there and were still there after like 30 years, and
Yeah.
it's difficult for me. It's always been like when you're in school and you go like on a visit somewhere and you're excited because you're going to see all like how the world works or whatever. That's the fun part, and
Yeah, for sure.
that was the fun part of having classes with such a passionate guy. But yeah, it turned
Interesting.
out well. I guess without those 3 years, I wouldn't be here doing what I do,
Right.
maybe. So
Right. You might not
it's
have met
all
your
good.
friend, right? And
Yeah.
so tell me
Yeah.
tell me about this friend. Was it like a did you see him doing something in 3D and it was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I want to do that shit." Like it was just right away. You
Yeah.
just were like, "Okay, right away you want to do it."
He was always like, actually, he was such a character, a guy that went like to 50% of classes and then just showed up like, dude, I just made this. It was like super cool at it in 3D or something. He used to put some stuff on Instagram as well. But I was like, wait, I can do that. Like I could do that. So yeah, it was fun. He was very nice. He taught me some stuff,
He taught you some stuff.
and yeah, just like here's Cinema4D. You can do this. You
Right.
can do that. Yeah,
Interesting. So he gave you like almost like the bicycle lesson and set
yeah,
you off
yeah.
on your way. And was that like a like a scary journey to be like exposed to the 3D art? And I don't know how it was for you, but a lot of us, when we get exposed to 3D, there's so many ways you can go with it, right? There's animation, there's texture, there's modeling, there's even more stuff. There's Marvelous Designer is like opens up another window, and now there's like there's all this new like not MoGraph motion graphics, but there's like another layer now that's like Adobe's coming out with this tool that's like almost like vector-based 3D. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's like a whole new realm of motion graphics, but like totally different. So, meaning there's just like so many different things that you can kind of get into. Was it overwhelming? Was it like kind of, or was it exciting?
The first time, like, I opened Cinema4D. I don't know if you're familiar
Of course.
with the UI. The UI today is a lot better than what it was in 2016 or 17. So when I first opened it, I didn't even know how to render. So I was like, can I do this? You know, am I up to the challenge? But I'm very like, I can't go to bed if I don't finish something I wanted to do in that day. So
super motivated.
yeah, and from the first day I had to learn 3D no matter what. I remember the first summer that I think it was like 2016. I remember being out like on vacation with my family. I took my computer and every night I stood up until like 3 or 4 a.m. doing 3D on Cinema 4D. So yeah, just that, like, the scary part just goes away when you're motivated. So it's been fun.
Interesting. Have you always been like that, like from a young age? Like you find something that you like and dig into it and
just keep going.
Obsessive.
Like, yeah. Same with guitar. I started playing guitar like 15 years ago, and I would play all day.
I saw that.
When I was in like on vacation, like those 3 months of summer, I would play like all day, every day. So it's always been like this.
Do you think that that's something that you learnt, or is that in your nature? And it's a little bit of an esoteric question. I always wonder that.
I don't know, honestly. Right now it's probably I'm just used to it. It's not at times not very healthy. And some days I don't need to work like 12 hours, but I'm just so used to it that if I don't, I feel like I kind of failed, you know. It's not cool, but yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I always wonder that, you know, I have a son, and I always think to myself, like, do I have to teach him these skills, or is it something that's like innate in them, you know, not in them, in him? I guess it must be like a bit of both, right? It must be like, you know, you kind of like pick up on things, and there's some things that are just natural inside of you, and so crazy how these, you know, all these little moments in our lives as like children can like echo,
can define the rest of the life.
Define the rest of our life, you know. It's oh man, it's crazy.
And in like, I guess when I was a kid, I wasn't that motivated, but I just whenever I found like something that I liked, just that, you know, like that sparkle, and it just went all the way. So
I think it's a great quality, and I think that, you know, like you said, you're very aware of it. And as you get older, you're pretty young. I think as you get older, you'll become even more aware of it, and it will go from being a habit to being a tool, you know, that you can kind of like mold and control. But I think in order to get to the point where it becomes a tool, you need to like, and this is like extreme, but you need to hit rock bottom with it. You know, it needs to become something that, you know what I mean? Like it needs to be heavy, and then it becomes
I resonate a lot with that. Yeah, because I always like to talk about this because it's not like the fun part of this conversation, but I overworked myself like 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm kind of in that phase where I'm trying to balance, like just like you mentioned, trying to transform that like overwork in a tool, not so much in a habit, you know, because like working 2 or 3 years straight isn't good for you, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course. Did you just get fully burnt out?
Yeah, completely burned out. Yeah.
And was it like apparent, or did somebody mention it to you? Like, how did you know you were burnt out?
Probably, I think the first time it happened, I was just like about to go on vacation that year, and I remember I had to go at like 7 a.m. or so, and I was still working at 6:30 or so. So I just had like a massive breakdown,
Mm,
and yeah, it was just as clear as day what happened.
mm,
My girl kind of helped me through the process. So
mm. Amazing. Well, I'm happy that you got out of it and that you're
yeah,
growing from it. This is all you can do, right? I mean, you
that's all I
know,
can do. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. It's interesting.
it's a hard balance, but it's hard to balance, but it's fun. It's good to learn how to balance work and private
Definitely,
life, everything. Yeah.
definitely. I hate to tell you, but it just gets harder. I
Yeah.
know that's kind of like the worst thing to say. It
No,
just
it's
gets harder.
true.
It's true, and
Yeah.
you have to start, instead of just balancing life, you have to now balance a family, and you have to now balance a career,
Yep.
and and not to be like anxiety overwhelming, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you have to find the balance in everything, because it's kind of like almost a big reason for being here. Is
Hmm.
balance
Yeah.
between being a good person and not giving, having boundaries. There's a very balance there as well, or that's like a little bit maybe esoteric, but like the balance, just the work and life balance, I think is something that is critical. um and the more you find it, then I think the more you become a defined human being, and
Hmm.
by becoming a more defined human being, you become a better artist. That's just kind
Yeah.
of the way that
Definitely.
works. If you're making art all day but you're not living, your art's going to suffer.
It's
you
gonna
know
be, yeah. It's true.
it's
Yeah.
going to be repetitive and
And
boring.
if, if, even though it wasn't the most fun experience of my life, the last 3 years, my art has kind of been a reflection of that period still.
Interesting.
So, well, the practical way of looking at this is I have content for the next 5 years, maybe, you know. So yeah, I have like 3 or 4 collections about this. So
I
yay.
love that. That is a very good spin on it. It could be like an advertisement for having a nervous breakdown. Like, have a nervous breakdown, you can get content.
Yeah. You have like 5 years worth of Instagram content. It's fun.
I love that. Okay, shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cinema4D. I know that you are a big Octane boy.
Hmm.
Obviously, just by looking at your renders, it's clear that there's some high quality path tracing going on there.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that you use Marvelous. Are you using Marvelous for the packaging, by the way?
Yeah, yeah.
You are.
It's
Interesting. I
so
had a
much easier than
feeling.
Cinema4D. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I'm sure most people do. Marvelous Designer is a cloth simulation program, mostly geared towards the fashion industry. But I
Hmm.
do, I kind of have seen it being used like this in the past. I didn't. I actually don't even know how to make a closed like
Like a bag.
thing, like a bag like that. It's so cool. I'd
Hmm.
love to learn that. I really love that kind of aesthetic.
I'll be happy to show you the super lazy way of doing it.
Hell yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's really easy, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's the nice thing about Marvelous Designer is like, I learned it in maybe like, I don't know, like a day. I obviously, like, it's funny because you can learn the program, but like there's like a whole thing of like learning how to design clothes that I'll probably never
Mhm.
know how to do. Like,
Yeah, I tried, but it's like,
it's such a different thing. Um,
yeah,
but it's a super nice program. I really love it. And
it's
then
amazing.
I
It's
saw you.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's actually a good segue because it's the real time cloth simulator, kind of how,
Mhm.
if those are familiar with, like, Embergen is like a real time gas and smoke simulator. Um, the benefit of using real time systems is immeasurable because, excuse me, as an artist, and I'm sure you have this a lot. Like, I've completely thrown all my renders out the window. I don't do any rendering anymore. I can't look at a render anymore.
Yeah, same.
I can imagine after the years and years, getting into Unreal. I know that you've been using Unreal more and more. It's a different ballgame, right? Because being able to design in real time and being able to see your changes in real time really allows you to bridge the gap between like a digital artist and almost like a classical artist. That's like a very big, broad statement. But yeah, like what has been your experience with this, especially as somebody who comes from this kind of drawing aspect where that real-time feedback is so important? How has that been for you to kind of get into these real-time tools?
Let's go with Unreal because it's the one that I'm more comfortable with.
Sure.
It just allows me to be a lot more creative than Cinema4D, for example. The thing with Unreal is that it's so complex. Like me talking about Unreal is funny because I know how to do like 3 things. I know how to make meta-humans and add some gobo lights to make it look kind of cool, but that's it, and and that's the good part of real-time rendering because I don't need to know a lot more than that. I can go on Quixel, find the right assets, spread them across the artboard, the canvas, whatever you want to call it. But it's so complex, and I'm not gonna get into Unreal too much because I don't know much, honestly.
But even as a rendering tool, there's so much benefit to it, right? Just being able to see that high quality path trace, or even even not, like even just the normal ray tracing is just beautiful. Is so powerful as an artist. And when you look at your work, it's sometimes the metahumans, you look at it and just the way you light it and the way that the posing is done, you ask yourself, is that a real person with some lights on them? Which is like
metahumans were like the reason that made me get into Unreal. Because for years I've always tried to be as realistic as possible with my renders. But for sure that like trying to make human figure is
very difficult.
Hell, it's very difficult. So when Epic Games came out with the meta-humans, I was like, yeah, fine, I can give it a try.
I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out some way, and I did, I guess. But it's just as you mentioned, it's so important to have the real time when creating the lights and everything. You can do like creative direction in real time. That's something that you don't get in any other program.
No, for sure not. I mean, even you can, Eevee in Blender is real time, but you can't get to that fidelity that Unreal gets to. And I think that you'd mentioned a really potent point of that. Unreal is so dense. There's so much to learn in Unreal. I've been using Unreal for almost 7 years, and I'm like a professional Unreal person. I'm like a trainer and I teach it, and I still don't even know how to use 70% of it. Like I make plugin for Unreal, and I still am learning new things all the time, and there's new features that come out all the time, and it's quite I find it very inspiring. It's not really daunting because I feel like once you really figure out the basics and the in and outs of Unreal, you can learn anything. You might never have the time and capacity to learn everything, but if you want to learn something like a texturing, like animation, like you mentioned, gobos and kind of putting textures into lights and stuff like this, you can learn it. It's like once you figure out the navigation, once you figure out a little bit of the logic of kind of the way the system works, once you even get like a taste of blueprints, the sky's the limit, I think.
Blueprints.
Sorry, I won't say that word. I'm sorry.
Haunting. Every time I open a meta-human blueprint, I'm like, nah.
Well, especially you're coming from like Cinema4D. It's like the most anti-node based program. It's
like, pretty much, yeah. I have some
all.
nodes with Octane, but it's in.
That's right. That's right. Octane is node based. That's true. That's true. But
Yeah,
it's basic, right? It's like more
yeah, it's pretty
just like
basic. Yeah, it's
shaders.
almost like it's shaders, yeah, and it's almost like layering in a certain
Hmm.
way. So
Hmm.
it's like you just gotta think like I'm using Photoshop,
Right.
but like horizontally. So
Horizontally. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, so yeah,
Which is kind of like what nodes are.
yeah,
At the
pretty
end of the day, they're kind of like system menus, just horizontal.
yeah.
Super cool. I want to talk a little bit about NFTs as well. I don't know how relevant it is still today, but I
Maybe.
just got back from ETH Denver from a Ethereum uh, conference or festival in Denver. Um, I was there. I'm not in the crypto world really. I was definitely into NFTs during COVID because why not? And I
Why
still
not? Yeah.
think the technology is super valid. It's definitely been totally fucked
Yep.
by like bad people.
Yeah.
There's a new one called POAPs. Have you heard of POAPs?
No, no.
POAPs is a new. It's kind of like stamps. So like NFTs are almost like a way to verify authenticity and like if something is a one piece of something like
Hmm.
tokenizing something, and a POAP, I actually don't know what it stands for, but a POAP is almost like taking that concept and streamlining it so that it's like it doesn't actually matter. The authenticity still matters, but the actual piece doesn't matter. It's much more like the collection is what's important. So instead of
Okay.
it being transferred to your wallet as like a address on like the blockchain, it just exists in the blockchain. So like you can
Okay.
access it from your wallet, you can access it from a link, you can access it from anywhere. It's yours, but it doesn't
But
actually.
it's hosted like
Yeah,
it's
it's like
hosted not in a wallet. It's on a collection. Right?
exactly. It's like a collection of some sort. I wish I had a better understanding of it, but I thought it was cool because it's like the technology is evolving,
Hmm.
and it was very interesting to see this kind of world. I've never seen this world before. I was there with the Cyberdelic Society. Shout out the Cyberdelic Society. We were doing some VR and Dome, installations and interactions. So it was very nothing to do with crypto, but we were just there we were invited there. Um, but it was cool to see this world, this world that kind of like goes up and down all
Yeah.
around. NFTs are still valid. People are still very interested by them. A friend of the show, Glass Crane, Steven, he made a massive killing during COVID from NFTs, and he's still in touch with the collectors. Some of his collections are still moving, they're still shifting, maybe not selling for the same amount that they were before, but some of them still sell for, 1 ETH and stuff like this. So there is still validity.
That's amazing. So yeah.
It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, what was your experience with that? I also saw that you were selling like clean NFTs with Tezos on Hict. I
Yeah.
can't pronounce it, but Hict to Nuck or
Yeah.
whatever the
Me
fuck.
neither.
What was that experience like,
Um,
being able to finally, quote unquote, finally sell your art in a sell your digital art in a way that like gives it value?
it was like it was the perfect. I hate what happened with NFTs, the way they disappeared because people ruined the technology. It's such a
Mm.
I wouldn't say perfect technology, but almost perfect technology.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you could own and prove that you own a piece that you
Mm-hmm.
bought on the internet is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and honestly, I felt like creating NFTs was like the most fun I had in years. Honestly, being able to
That's
create
nice.
something for fun, no, without a client briefing, with
Mm-hmm.
no limitations, and like hoping that I could sell it, but most of the times like knowing that I could sell it, even if it was for I don't like $10 or whatever. It was uplifting. It was it was great.
And are you
The,
still selling them? Are you still going through with them?
No, and the sad part is that I kind of feel like I can't mention NFTs
without
on Instagram,
yeah
without the backlash.
yeah like nobody's gonna take you
Even at the
seriously.
time, nobody takes it serious.
Mm.
It's sad. It's like hating on the internet because there's like gore or whatever on the internet. It's like hating the technology
Right.
for
Yeah,
some
I
reason.
mean, it sucks. It's the same thing with crypto.
Yeah,
Just
there
because
are
there's shit
scams. There are
coins
scams everywhere.
and
Yeah,
and pump and dumps doesn't mean that the technology is not good. But
yeah,
I think it's interesting because there's still you still have like people and people that are kind of championing this kind of concept of NFTs, or maybe not NFTs per se, but digital art as like a
digital
real
art. Yeah,
thing. I think that I think it will come around. I think that either
me too. Yeah,
like this POAPs or some sort of new technology will come back, and it will be more mature, and it will be less. Excuse me. It will be less COVIDized, where everybody's kind of like jumping on it and trying to make a quick
yeah.
buck. Um, because
There was a lot of misinformation as well. There still is. So, yeah.
in what sense?
But I agree. I think people that you remember like being on Instagram and reading every time someone posted an NFT or something, like there would always be like hundreds of people saying right click and save it.
Right, like
People were
yeah,
like, yeah, I can
yeah,
have it. So no, you can't have it. You
right.
don't have the
It's defeating
the proof of
yeah, of course.
authenticity. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's defeating the point of the
it's
thing for sure.
yeah.
It's like you can go and take a picture of the Mona Lisa, but it's not the Mona Lisa for sure.
That's the perfect
Um,
example.
yeah, I think that people are, like we said before, pretty dumb in general, and are swayed by public opinion,
Yeah.
and you know, it's crazy how the trajectory has happened of like NFTs and then AI art. Like imagine if those were reversed. Imagine if AI art came first and then
First, yeah.
NFTs came. That would be crazy, right? Because you'd have
Yeah.
like a totally different meaning to the whole thing.
Yeah. And
But I think
NFTs visually would be like, instead of having like, I don't know, doodles and CryptoPunks, we would have a shit ton of mid-journey collections.
yeah,
And people would hate NFTs even more,
even
maybe. I
more.
don't know. Yeah.
I wonder if there would be a more understanding of like, oh, this is what makes it like authentic.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how that trajectory happened, where the public is so. I think there's a lot of jealousy when it comes to digital art, and also the art world is massive gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Christie and Beeple and all that kind of like quote unquote contemporary art only happened at the end. There was like 2 years of like, this is bullshit, this isn't real, this isn't good. Meanwhile, people are making like a shit ton of
Millions.
money.
Yeah.
We're like managing to like make like $10 here, $10 here, $100 here, and like feeling good about our art, which is also very
Yeah.
important for
It's very important. Yeah.
inspiring
It's
artists.
like that.
And then
It's like people you can get like that quality check,
yeah,
of your art, because
for sure.
you spend your day alone and you're like, is it good? I don't know. But
Right.
then you could sell your art to someone in Japan, wherever, the other side of the
Yeah.
world.
And they
It just
love it,
felt great.
and
they
they,
love
and
it,
they
yeah.
love it. And I the biggest collection that I had was these like Shipibo Kanibo patterns from the Amazon, and and I donated the funds to these people in the Amazon, and it made like $700, and I was like so happy by this, that
Yeah.
like not only am I being validated, but I'm also like doing something good that felt
Yeah.
good. Like when have I, and I think like, okay, I'm kind of lucky as a visual artist, as a VJ, I get to perform my art to people, so I get to get that feeling of like I'm doing something good, as I'm performing. But during COVID, I didn't have that, and I'm just like,
Yeah, of course.
what am I doing? Like, am I doing anything good? Am I making productive things happening? And that really helped me feel that way. So I think it's interesting. I think it will shift. I think there will be a definite shift when it comes to, authenticating digital art, especially now with AI.
Definitely.
And especially as blockchain becomes more and more legit, thanks to President Trump. I'm joking. Not political, but he definitely is helping the crypto world. That's
Yeah,
undeniable.
that's for sure. Yeah.
So maybe this will kind of shift again.
I think NFTs will come around. As you said, it was probably like the right technology at the wrong time. Like it happened a million times in history. So
Yeah,
gotta
totally.
wait, I guess.
Yeah. Tell me about these masks. I'm gonna open one up here. Where is this kind of idea come from? Where you have this, you know, um, regardless of the aesthetic, not regardless. In addition to the aesthetic,
Hmm.
in addition to the aesthetic, where does the idea of these masks come from? It's very sci-fi, but it's also kind of like organic in some way. I just find it
It's kind
so
of
interesting.
it's kind of difficult to tell because it's definitely sci-fi. It's definitely futuristic, but it's also like kind of a reflection of my love for the 2000s.
Mm.
Those like tribal shapes and
Mm.
tramp stamps.
Yeah,
I
tramp
don't know.
stamps.
Let's
That
let's
is
put
what
a
it
tramp
is.
stamp on a face.
It's so funny. That's really funny.
Like this is like the weirdest sentence of my life, but I spent the weekend drawing tramp stamps for for masks and rings to post later. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's that and my lack of technical skills or knowledge inside of
Mm.
ZBrush,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I do something like super smooth and perfect in Illustrator maybe, and then I
Mm-hmm.
go to ZBrush and I'm like, how do I like transfer the shape from Illustrator to ZBrush?
Mm-hmm.
So I just draw it by eye, and it just becomes organic. That's the amazing science behind my art. It's just not knowing how to do stuff.
Mm. Well, I mean that's creativity 101 is putting yourself in a
Yeah.
box, right? Put
Yep.
yourself in a box and you're gonna come out with a creative solution. I love this asymmetrical one. Super cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Very, very cool.
Those are super cool.
Speaking,
I gotta print one of those actually.
yeah, I was gonna say these would be super cool on like a person, and
Yeah.
you can actually like print. Maybe this is like too extreme, but you could like print some of them
No,
and do
if you actually that
electroplating.
post. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if you know, but I recently
I was
started a
just gonna
jewelry
talk
brand.
about that. I was just gonna get into
Actually,
that.
that post with the human figure and the glasses.
This
That
one,
one I actually printed that one. Yeah. Um,
cool.
I was again. I don't know. I mentioned vacation like 5 times during this call, but I was
Oh,
on vacation
cool.
2 years ago. Again, I can't be standing still, so I remember looking at being in the beach, like looking at the water, and I'm like, what if I buy a 3D printer? So I bought the 3D printer, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna sell rings. Um, but then I realized that it wasn't like possible for me to have a business with just 3D printing, at
Hmm.
least with the materials that I bought. I bought a resin 3D printer,
Oh wow.
and then yeah, I was trying to learn some stuff about electroplating. But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make like so much waste with this,
Yeah.
and it's better to leave this to someone who actually knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, now I have a manufacturer, and
Amazing.
I guess it's the better
Yeah.
decision for now. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it. I mean, I definitely was gonna segue into Nullora,
Nullora, yeah, yeah.
Nullora,
Nullora, yeah.
Nullora, Nullora. You got to say it like a Portuguese, Nullora.
No, no, you can say it in whatever. Honestly,
If I say it
it's
like
not
an American, I'd be like Nullora,
Nullora, yeah.
Nullora.
But it's not a real. word actually.
Right.
Um,
I love this. This is amazing, dude. This trailer is
Thanks,
so
man.
sick. It's so epic. It's really awesome.
You know what's funny? I spent like 4 months trying to come up with the perfect idea for the teaser, and then I was like, "Fuck!" I was supposed to drop the brand in like May or June, and I was like September, like, "Fuck!" I gotta drop this. So in 2 days, me and my friend made this. Like, we
Amazing.
scratched everything we made in the previous like 6 months, and
Just
that
went with
happened.
it.
But so Nullora is. It was supposed to be nulla, which is nothing, empty, whatever in Latin. But
Like
then
null.
my good friend
Interesting.
ChatGPT, I had a little chat with ChatGPT, and he came up with the amazing concept of nulla plus aura, which is the edge of nothingness. And I was like, that's
Ooh, I
super cool
like that.
because
That's really cool.
it's so cool because I didn't want to put too much pressure into Nullora, even though like I obviously put a lot of pressure on this, but I want it to be something like I want to draw a ring, I want to sell it, but let's not go crazy. Let's not try to make this like one ring a day or whatever, like I am,
Right.
like I do with 3D. And you know, like when someone asks you what's wrong, and you always say nothing. So Nullora, what's this? I'm like, nothing. You know, that's where the name came from.
I
It's
love
supposed to
it.
be like my passion project.
Yeah, I mean, it's super
And
cool looking,
thanks, man.
and I can imagine that the actual physical pieces, the steel pieces, must be even more cool looking. I mean, just look at that. Just like that is so interesting.
Actually,
I also
I'll
love
send you
the
one. Of course,
asymmetry. Oh, I will not
of
say
course.
no. The aesthetic of it is super cool, and the asymmetry of it is super cool. Like, it's almost like you can twist it and wear it differently every day.
Yeah.
Like almost like wear it
Yeah.
in a different configuration every day.
I swear, like every time I print a ring, I'm like, this is top, this is bottom. There's always someone that's like, cool, turn it upside down.
Turn
I'm
it
like,
down.
okay.
Yeah. That's really
I
funny.
don't think there's a single person that uses the ring as I intended. So
As intended.
it's fun.
Are you
Yeah.
so are you still printing them and then sending them to a manufacturer? Is that kind of the process?
I print the prototypes,
Mm-hmm.
and then whenever I'm happy with, after 300 prints, I'm happy with the result. I send it to my manufacturer, and they use stainless steel.
And they're making them by hand, or are they also printing them, or what are they
No,
CNCing them?
I'm not sure how they make the mold, but
It's a mold. Okay, it's a mold.
they then cast it. So I'm not sure if
Interesting.
they 3D print the model, but yeah.
Interesting. So it's a cast. It's a one piece. Huh? That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's super cool.
yeah.
Really nice. I have a really good friend who's an amazing jeweler. I'm just gonna shout him out here. I actually really have been meaning to have him on the podcast. He's not a digital artist, but he's just so good. And it's very different aesthetic, but it kind of somehow almost reminds me. I have to show him your stuff, because it's like, I'm sure he's gonna be super
so sick.
interested by it. Yeah, he makes super cool stuff, and he makes these like USB inspired
So
kind
cool.
of like metal stuff. It's all handmade. He has this crazy workshop in his house with like fucking like 30 different machines.
It's like one piece each or so.
One piece each. Yeah, no casting. He just started doing like working with brands and making like more continuous pieces. But yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of this
So beautiful, man.
heavy metal feeling, like this
Mhm.
very strong metal feeling, which I kind of get from your ring as well.
Yeah,
It has that kind of presence,
It was,
which I think
yeah,
is
it was super
really
important to me to have not only visually but the final product really needed to be something not heavy because you don't want to like wear
of course.
like a ton, on your finger, but it's just super important to make it feel like solid.
What
And
was it like?
I meant
Sorry.
go
Yeah.
go ahead. No,
No,
go
no,
ahead. Go ahead.
continue.
I was lost, so just go ahead.
What was it like bringing something digital into the physical world? Was it like a weird feeling? Was there kind of some?
It's so weird. It still is to this day. Um, the rings not so much because the format is very small. But I've been printing some stuff. I actually don't have any here, but you know that the good part of being an artist is whenever it's someone's birthday, you can give them
Mm,
something for like you can give them your work. So yeah, every time like my nieces or like someone like that, it's their birthday. I've been printing some stuff, and it's
that's
so weird to
nice.
spend like a day on Blender or ZBrush and then having like a little like Funko to give it.
Mm.
So it's so weird, man. And I'm planning on printing the bags,
The
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 figures, yeah,
figures.
yeah.
Really
Because
interesting. That'd be really cool.
I think that will be like the weirdest feeling because I've been doing these for like 4 years or so and just printing them. I don't know, and I'm just
Super cool.
rambling again, but
Really awesome. I really want to get into our set portion here and kind of see into Tiago's world. Right
mhm.
before we get there, I just want to talk quickly about um, some of the clients that you've worked with. You worked with Muse and some other
Yeah.
really big brands. I saw on your Instagram some super cool telescope that you worked with. But yeah, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
please feel free to like
Leonis, yeah.
take it wherever you
Uh,
want. I'd love to hear about Muse.
yeah.
Let me open it up here. This is
Muse is
very interesting.
actually it's the most I think the most interesting one maybe.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about
Because
it.
it's still weird for me because I mean I love Muse. I love Muse. It was the first show that I actually went to. Like I bought the ticket and went to the show. I wanted to see Muse.
Hell yeah.
So when I got the email from their creative director, he sent me like a PDF with 6 or 7 pages, and it was just like we have like 4 images to make. Pick one. I was like, what? Muse? Me? And then I was like, I think this image is supposed to be the cover. So I was like, yeah, I'll make this first option. And I think I spent like 1 month. Like I'm not actually making the cover, right? Um, and to this day, whenever I open Spotify and I'm like, what, why, what happened? When did I make Muse's album artwork?
Mm,
It's so weird. It's such a weird feeling,
mm-hmm.
but it was such an amazing project. Jesse Lee Stout, who's the creative director, he's a legend. I don't know if you know him. He's worked with pretty much everyone in the music industry.
Mm-hmm. No, I
I
have not.
learned
I
so much
haven't.
from him. Yeah, but it's
But it
such a weird
sounds.
feeling to this day. It's such a weird feeling.
Do you know how he found you?
Instagram,
Instagram.
everything. Yeah, it has always been via Instagram. Pretty
Interesting.
much all of the gigs. Even
Interesting.
stuff like I worked for a company that was making a project for Bentley. Same
Mm-hmm.
Instagram for Porsche. A lot of stuff. Everything comes from Instagram.
I want to talk about the importance of social media and kind of like how you've been focusing on it. But I want to first jump into your set. All right, so we're gonna now check out Tiago's set. Very excited to see what he has ready for us. Take it away, Tiago.
Yeah. So usually I start in DAZ Studio, which is a free app. I like to create my characters here because they're like realistic enough for what I need. Um,
Boobies.
oh
Sorry.
no, maybe you can't show boobies on the show. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. We don't have
Um,
any sponsors.
okay, perfect. I'm just gonna like make a simple pose just for later for Marvel's designer. Like that is so simple. You can just drag everything.
Mm.
It's like Sims, but funnier, I guess.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Like, and all of this would be so difficult to model in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So having the possibility to make it in, even if it's a preset that everyone can use, it's so good to have this available in like 5 minutes.
Have you tried out iClone? Do you prefer like DAZ over iClone?
I think I tried iClone a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that I guess I learned as and I went with it, and the marketplace for DAZ is so good.
Right, like just tons of
You can
assets, right?
buy
You can buy
so
so
many
much stuff.
characters.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so many like hair models, so many clothing models, everything.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
This is like the classic Tiago render pose. And then you can like detail the body a bit. Let me see if I can show you. For example, you can go like all crazy on the bodybuilder side, for example. I like to use this bodybuilder details setting because you get these like
Define.
extra, yeah, not this one. But I can see the difference and
Yeah,
then
of course.
when you add the texture, it adds so much to the final product. So for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna make like a super detailed thing. Let me just go through my million files here. Exporting in OBJ because I guess it's the most friendly
For Marvelous.
format. Yeah.
What do you do for hair? Is it normally something you do after?
I usually don't add hair, only
Mm-hmm.
on metahumans.
Metahuman.
On
Gotcha.
yeah. Well, actually, I should go to Cinema4D. It's better because I want to remesh the model.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes Marvelous doesn't work amazingly with the models from
From
DAZ.
DAZ. I see you got some tramp stamps over there.
Yeah, always. I'm a big tramp stamp lover.
So you're reformatting it so that it comes into Marvelous better? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's it pretty much. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can't like explain you the science behind it, but it
Mm-hmm.
just makes everything a lot smoother. In Cinema4, this is like the remesh tool for in Blender, and
Mm-hmm.
or I think it's remesh, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a few different ones, but yeah, the remesh is probably like a voxel remeshing. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Doesn't need to be like super detailed or anything.
So you're almost like decimating it so that it's like lower poly. Is that the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
idea here? Gotcha.
Sometimes when it comes like this to Marvelous Designer, I think it's not the case actually, because this one should work, but many times when you simulate on top of this model, the garment just goes through it.
Interesting. It doesn't have like it's not
It's like it's
maybe
almost
it's not
like
manifold or something.
yeah, or something, or sometimes it'll be just like a, not like a shell, but something like that.
Right. It doesn't have. Yeah. It's not. It's non-manifold. Like it doesn't. It's not closed.
Yeah. Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. Cinema 4D is one of those tools that like I had to learn out of necessity because Notch. I used Notch for many years, and
Yeah.
if I wanted to go from like Blender to Notch, it never worked. I had to go through Cinema 4D, so I would just use Cinema 4D as like import export, you know. But
Yep.
something about Cinema 4D is just like sometimes it just does something. Who knows what it does? Some black magic that just like makes everything
It's
work.
black magic for real. Yeah. It can be the like almost industry standard while being the least industry standard thing. It's so weird.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's like the industry standard, but like the most basic bitch of the industry.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so funny. Nice.
So yeah. Now this is
So
a mesh.
give us a
And
little bit of a run through of Marvelous. We haven't had Marvelous on the podcast before. I'd love to get like a a rundown of like just the basics if you could.
mhm. So I'm the perfect guy for it because I used the basic, like that's it. As you said, it's a cloud simulator, a real-time simulator. Um, you have the 3D view, the 2D view, and it's super intuitive. In this case, for example, I can just draw a rectangle. It would be in this case, it would be like the front face of the bag that I can duplicate. And just like in real life, I can sew it. This is like the most basic bag ever. As you can see the sewing lines.
So sewing is like basically connecting those pieces together, right? Like
Exactly.
these
Yeah,
cubes are representing fabric, right? An idea of
exactly.
fabric, and the sewing is like kind of the concept of putting them together.
Yeah. And well, this is very specific for my work, but very important to turn off gravity
Right, and the
and the
floor.
collision with the ground. Yeah.
Yeah,
And real-time
that's it.
simulation. Yeah.
Amazing.
Um, you have there are like a lot of settings, just like in real life. I can show you something next. Let me just show you how to make the like that almost like vacuum bag. You just make the
Pressure.
pressure. You make negative on one side and positive on the other,
Interesting.
and that's it. I can like steam. I usually steam the edges. Otherwise, we get these weird like extra pieces of garment.
Steaming the edges, huh? Interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't even know that that was a thing. What does that do? It kind of like just tucks them in or something?
yeah. Just like steaming in real life. In real life,
Interesting.
it's just tucks it in pretty much. I
Very
could
cool.
do it like the right way and model it properly.
What do you mean by that?
But what I could just like instead
Skinning
of
it?
instead of making two rectangles, I could, for example, follow the shape of the model,
Gotcha. Like actually
like
following
as
the shape.
like a pen tool, for example. But why when you have these tools, right?
Right.
Wait, oops.
Do you
Yeah,
find that doing that
I
makes
forgot.
it a better simulation or no?
Not really. No,
Not
it's just
necessarily.
not necessarily. Very important here is to set the shrinkage parameters right, this one is like the length horizontally, and this is like the length vertically. It's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, let me just reset because I have butchered this this back because I pressed the wrong key.
Yeah, that's the thing with Marvelous is that because it's a real-time cloth simulation, it's like once you start the simulation, you got to be careful because anything
Yep.
you do will change it, and there's no going back. You can't like
Yep.
Control Z on the simulation, unfortunately.
Yeah. So frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used it a lot for like making like not wizard, but like like ethereal clothing, like just a
Mhm.
garment, like a cloak
yeah.
almost. And like you get it to the exact thing, and then you like pull one piece, and it like goes through the
And it's
fingers or the
out.
arms, and you're like, oh
Yep.
fuck.
I remember I used to do like cloaks so much. In the meantime, I've deleted a lot of stuff from Instagram,
Really?
but almost every single piece of my work from like 2020 or something used to have like the tiny person with the cloak. So yeah.
It's very satisfying, the cloak, it's
Yeah.
it's a very cool, it's very easy to do, and
Yep.
it just looks cool,
It's
it
fun.
looks
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
fun.
fun. Yeah. I think also when it comes to, I love these lines that are forming, super cool.
Yeah.
um
I
I
always
think
try to have those because it just like it's not super realistic, but I think it sells like the effect of plastic,
like a
like
shrink wrap.
wrapped plastic. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it that you did to get that, just out of interest?
I
Was it
just hear
shrinkage?
this. Yeah, this the shrinkage.
Mm-hmm.
I always like play around with the settings.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I
Interesting.
had like 150, you have
Ooh, that's
this this
cool.
crazy effect. Yeah.
Super cool.
It's like trying to find like the midterm. And another fun
And I
part is
see you're
having
only,
like
are you only doing that for one of the sides, or is that for both of them?
no, it's for both.
For both.
I
Okay, you
just
said for both.
selected
Okay, sorry,
control.
I didn't
Yeah,
see that.
no, no worries. And Marvel has like dozens of realistic physical properties for certain materials.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have silk, we have denim, we have so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that usually like silk works well
Mm.
for the plastics. Well, it didn't this time. But let me just decrease the particle distance, which is like subdividing.
Mm-hmm.
Getting this weird effect for some reason. But let's see. This never happened. It had to be while I was while I was recording.
With the those like
It had like these
pieces,
bubbles. Yeah.
bubbles, yeah. Maybe just pull it.
This, where was this? Yeah. Yeah, it's. I think it's too far gone. But I guess we can make it work in Cinema4D actually.
How long will you spend on tweaking like a bag like this?
It really depends
Depends.
because I like to post again, social media interfering with the creative process, but I like to post as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And well, usually like if it's been a week or so and I haven't posted, I try to make something a bit more simple or a bit more like straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
won't spend as much time on the bag. But when I have an idea, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I made a bag called Imaginary Emergency Friends,
Yes, I love that one.
and I spent like hours trying to get the right bag. It really depends on the concept, pretty much.
Hmm. Interesting.
Actually, let me see if I can share the project. That could be interesting, I think.
Yeah, I'd love to see how you take this into cinema and get that kind of like, plasticky vibe and
Mhm,
just the see-throughness of everything. I think it would be really cool.
of course. Let me
And yeah,
just,
definitely seeing a ready-made product would also be awesome.
yeah. So, just gonna simulate again because I made it smoother.
Resimulate, baby. Doesn't cost anything.
Only $49 a month for Marvelous.
For sure. I don't. Well, I shouldn't say it. Maybe online, but there are ways of getting it for free.
Yeah, never. I'm way past that phase now.
No,
Of
for sure, for
like
sure. You definitely should not be playing with
FBI.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely not. If you're posting daily marvelous things, for sure
Yeah.
not. I can get away with it. I
Yeah.
would never though.
Just
I would never. I would never. I would never.
okay. Okay. FBI. You would never.
I would never. I think Cinema4D is one of the most pirated programs like ever.
For sure. Yeah.
And I
Yep.
think that they actually, I don't know if it was Cinema or if it was Adobe. I think it was Adobe. Adobe knew that they were being pirated for years, and they actually didn't mind it because it gave them the market share.
Hmm.
They and only like I think in the past maybe like a decade or maybe under a decade they started cracking down. But for most of Adobe's kind of like existence, they were like happy with the pirating because it gave them the market share. So I
Yeah.
think other programs kind of use that technique to get people to use their program. It's obviously not a great business model, but I guess it can
Well,
work
I
for
mean,
some people.
for cinema, I guess it kind of works.
Yeah,
Kind of worked for
I think it does. I'm like
album
a
file.
pirate in nature. I think that it's like if you're using a tool professionally, you should pay for it. If you're just fucking
Yeah.
around and playing, go ahead and fuck around and play.
We are from the trial version era, and
That's
we don't have
right.
that as much now. So
The trial version. Good day, good times.
definitely, man.
This is cool.
So Octane here, always a little window for Octane, and the fun part is about to begin, which is creating the materials and making it look like plastic. This is like where the design part starts, because even though I hated college, I'm still a designer, so I like to center stuff.
For sure.
These are like a lot of like settings that are up to taste. Nothing nothing is set, you know.
Hmm.
I do have a few presets. I work with ACES, the color profile. It
Hmm.
just allows me to have a lot more info on the white parts of the images.
Hmm. Interesting.
Always use an HDRI. Not always, but I always use an HDRI here.
Ooh, lovely. HDRIs,
Yeah.
huh? What a cheating way to light things, but it's
Right.
so effective. It's just like so effective. Love
And done. That's it. No, I'm kidding.
it. Yeah.
And just for the sake of like this art style, I guess I always use a black background.
Mm, nice.
But yeah, for example, in this case, we don't have like the backlight is almost non-existent, so I like to add a light just to define the shape a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I do all this stuff from memory, so if you want me to slow down, just let me know.
Slow down a little bit, but it's super interesting to see your
Okay, okay.
process. Yeah. Feel free to also like call out what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nice. That's
I'm just trying to get to define the shape of the bag a bit more. It's a bit too much. But yeah, we'll get to it later because this will probably look like a completely different image in 10 minutes. So
And for those who aren't familiar, a 3-point light setup is a backlight, fill light, and a floodlight, or sometimes called an eye light. And the general idea is you kind of are using 3 lights to create a 3-dimensional feeling with your object,
yeah,
so that you can kind of get more depth and roundness and highlight the right things, I should say.
but sometimes it just doesn't work for the scene, which I think is the case, or maybe just the HDRI. I actually have one that always works,
Your go-to.
which is yeah, it's my go-to. It's actually I think this one is free. It's actually a bathroom, but if you don't need reflections,
That is awesome. That is
that's
fucking
just great.
great.
Like you can see like everything.
Shower.
The
That's
sink,
awesome.
the shower, the
I love that.
towels. I love it.
Towels.
It's the best one. Look at how real everything looks with this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So defined.
Um, I think for now I'm just gonna keep the HDRI because like lighting the plastic material can be a bit tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just applying a glossy material. This is something I learned like quite recently. I used to go with the specular material. The thing with the specular material is that I can change the index of refraction. I can change everything, but for my taste, it never looks like plastic. So what I like to do is here on the opacity for the glossy material, I add a fall off map, which is well kind of like a gradient, and just make it like this.
Super
Instead of having the specular, I kind of like fade in a way. I kind of fade the opacity of the material,
cool. Mm-hmm.
and then here on the index, I make it as reflective as possible.
Right. You want to get those
Yeah, like plastic
light
key
changes.
filling. Yeah, and from now it's like a matter of playing around with the HDRI. Maybe change the gamma. The fun part also is adding gobo lights. Otherwise, it's not one of my renders. You want to make like it's super important to have the gobo lights small, very small, to have like the shape super defined.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I think I have some grayscale gorilla textures. Well, caustics always the answer. Let me just make it orange so we can see what I'm doing. And as the light source is super small at this point, I think it's like yeah, it's 5 centimeters square, so I have to increase the intensity. Like this is all like art direction, I guess. It's just a matter of finding the right light, not exactly like the most. Like I mentioned the 3-point lighting, but that's like my go-to. But at this point, I just want to find something that looks cool. Maybe if I was working on a client project, I would use the 3-point lighting more. Like I would respect the 3-point lighting a bit more and
Why?
stuck with
Why
it,
on a
stick
client
with it.
project? Just out of interest.
Because it's more of a photo shoot setup, you know. If I were like showcasing a product, for example, I've been working on some like this, for example. I'm not sure if you can see it.
Yeah.
I've been working on some stuff like this, and here I want to make sure that we can see the product perfectly,
Gotcha.
and it's like that Behance type look, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, I kind of always choose 3-point lighting. In Unreal, I feel like it gives me more control.
Mhm.
It's also the skylight in Unreal, like the HDRIs in Unreal. You definitely can get some nice results, but it never looks as good as like a good 3 area lights, rect
True.
lights, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about it. It definitely takes more time to set up and like tweak. But I
But
mean,
it's
here in
worth it.
Octane, it's like that HDRI just looks so
I-
smooth right away.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Octane is super like HDRI friendly. But I feel like every time I work with Unreal, I always stick with area lights because every time I act like what's it called? It's daylight or directional light,
Directional
something like
light.
that.
The
Yeah,
directional light is kind of like an HDRI, right? Because it's kind of just like
hmm
a global light, which is also good, but
just
it's
never
hard to
feels
rein
right
it
at
in.
all.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah,
to rein in. Oh wow, what did you do now? You just changed it completely
yeah. I changed the color of the model itself.
of the texture of the model
Yeah,
inside.
the model. Yeah,
Gotcha. Wow, that's cool.
it's always there. I never use like 100% white or 100% black because there's no such thing
Mm,
in in the real world.
I like this green.
Yeah, this screen is the go-to. Something very important is adding a roughness texture.
Mm,
Actually, no, adding a texture to the roughness channel.
gives it that more realistic feeling, huh?
Yes,
Look at you with the nodes.
yes.
Node master.
Here are the nodes. Yeah, the octane nodes, and you can see the projection of the texture. It's super helpful. So for the roughness, the whites will show up more, and the blacks won't show. It will be 100% reflective. In this case, it will be a bit difficult to see the roughness because if you remember, I added that fall off map to the opacity,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't have 100% opacity in all of the bag,
Mm-hmm.
but it
Yeah.
just
Also,
adds
we're seeing it
some
from
like
here, but it breaks it
no,
up,
go ahead.
right?
Yeah,
No, it
exactly. Yeah.
breaks it up. It breaks it up for sure.
Let's see with the previous lights. Well, it's a bit like over the top, but it's kind of cool. No, I always like to add some follow up to the lights, just like a almost like a softbox.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And for the model, I could go like crazy with the detail. Like, for example, I could add some bump.
Mm.
It's not working for some reason.
Nice.
One add is like super fine details.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is that wall called? Like staccato or no?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? That white.
Hmm.
Can't remember the name now.
As you can see, it just adds like so much depth. And
Stucco.
as I
Sorry.
can't remember the name as well. Yeah. um, and yet, as I mentioned earlier, nodes are like layers, horizontal layers. And in this case, I can add like a mixed texture, which is like you can. It's a mixed texture. You can add two textures, and then add like a map that tells Octane where each texture will appear. For example, here I can add like this noise could be bigger than the other one. It could have, I don't know, like different shape.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Let's see. Oh no. For example, let's make it over the top actually. And now I can add a map that tells Octane where each texture appears. And increase the contrast. So white will be texture 1 and black will be texture 2,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa. Actually, like all of this I've been learning in Blender. I used to do like a lot of layer stacking, but I just found out about Jess Wiseman. I don't know if you know her.
Sounds familiar, but I don't think so. No.
Like she is amazing at texturing. She has a brand as well, and she tries to make everything in Blender instead of having like expensive photo shoots and everything. So she has completely mastered the art of photorealism, you know. And she has some tutorials on YouTube. She's amazing.
Nice.
And the process is pretty much like stacking and stacking and stacking textures, so you can always have a bit more detail and a bit more variation. I could also add, for example, in the normal maps really help with the with the detail.
Definitely. What was the name of that person? Jess
Wiseman.
Jess Wiseman. Oh, cool. Nice. Good.
Then
Good
just
call
like
out.
0.1, 0.2.
Nice. Man, I love finding new people. It's like there's so many artists all over the place. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
You know what I
true.
mean? It's like there's just endless. It's amazing.
Yeah. And every time you find a new one, you feel a bit older, you know? Because
For
they're
sure.
all like 20.
Yeah, they're all young for sure. Yeah, she's like 23 years old. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That makes me feel really old. You make me feel old.
Dude, I'm 28. So.
And that extra detail is it's so nice. You know, it's so subtle, but
Yeah.
it really makes a big
Just
difference.
sells the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And very important again, roughness. I always try like to not choose this texture, but I always choose this texture because it's just amazing. So just for the sake of this video, I'm going with this one. Gonna try to make it work. And the UVs are all fucked up because I didn't spend any time with it. And UVs are a nightmare overall.
Do you ever find yourself unwrapping and things like this, or are you more focused on the procedural side of things?
Like sometimes I try, but it demotes me, you know.
Pain in
I'm
the
just
ass, yeah,
like, nah, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah, I'm doing all this just to cover it in a plastic bag, but yeah. Just trying to make my PC not explode in the meantime. I'm changing the samples because I'm hearing the fan noises, and I know if I go too high with the samples, my PC will just crash.
Yeah, this is kind of like another what we were talking about before. The benefit of real time versus
Yep.
an offline render is you kind of have to give and take, right? Like you
Yeah.
might have to lower the sample rate, which is not going to give you all the details that you just worked on so hard to get. You're only going to see those details if you run like a whatever 5,000 samples, or I don't know how many samples you
Yep.
usually do, but a high amount. Whereas like if you put this into Unreal, you'd probably see those details, at
Very true.
least at least to some degree for sure.
I'm gonna cheat now, and I'm gonna open an old file because I always like to add droplets.
Okay. Like liquid droplets onto the.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's
but
not cheating. This is kind of. I wanted to talk to you about this as well because I saw you mentioned it in an interview that you did. But you like to replicate your techniques so that you can make things faster.
more
I
effective.
think it's
Yeah.
more effective workflow. I think it's really smart.
So as you can see, this is I think I made like a sphere and then just pretty much
Damn.
I used like a taper deform or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's super simple, super low poly, just sell the effect. And the material is just a specular,
Nice.
like a default specular, like 1.5 of index.
Sick. Very effective as well.
Like some of these are huge, but
What's up? Okay. I like these droplets. It really does sell like the plastic, and
Hmm.
it's almost like a dirt map or something like that, or some
Yeah.
sort of breaking it up in some way. It's really cool.
Sometimes I like to go like the extra mile and add some dust.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I think I have a project with that.
When do you when do you take things into substance? Is that when you're adding do you often take things into substance, or are you mostly doing stuff in cinema, like the texturing in
No,
cinema?
actually, I only use Substance for when I use Unreal,
Okay.
when I add when I add makeup to the models, and
Gotcha.
yeah, and when I want to texture a bit better the masks.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Again,
Yeah.
because I'm not familiar with Unreal, so even the material creation is a bit tough, I guess, or at
Right.
least different
Right.
from what I'm used to.
Can you bake materials in cinema? I'm sure you probably could, right? You could like
Oh
bake
yeah, yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
a
Again,
material,
yeah. Mhm.
but I guess substance at that point is just going to be so
Yeah,
much faster
substance
and
is
easier.
yeah, it's and I can like use my hand. It's so much
Right.
better.
Right. Yeah, I love substance. It's like the fastest tool to get the coolest looking shit.
And whenever I use substance, I feel like a better 3D artist. So like this is 3D dust. Let me see. You see?
Mm. What?
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's kind of difficult to show because it's super small and
Interesting.
usually it only like shows in like a 5K render or so.
Right.
But let me see if I can. These are cloners, by the way. These are
Hmm.
Octane cloners, Octane scatter.
Oh, Octane has its own scattering. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah.
Interesting. It's like more
So I
optimized.
can so much more optimize. Yeah, I can
Mm.
make like this one is 3K, 500, 10K.
Gotcha.
But yeah, sometimes I can go like 100K and it's all good.
You're good. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. We can't really see the dust, but the dust is like I know it's there, so
So you feel good about it.
it's like an ego thing almost.
Yeah. I am putting so much detail into my work. Trust me, I
Yeah,
am.
I'm amazing. I'm a
There
3D
is
artist. Look
dust.
at me. Yeah.
I love it.
Um, but yeah, like overall, the very typical move for me is also adding a sticker. Like I started making these bags like I think 2 years ago for season 3 of my NFT collection called Migraines,
Hmm.
which again was just like the aftermath of my burnout, whatever. And I wanted to make something like a brand selling feelings,
Mm.
because I'm not like I, I'm not really someone who talks about what's in my head and
Hmm.
what I'm feeling, whatever. So I just opened Cinema4D and make bad jokes about it. So I wanted to make like a fictional company that sells these feelings,
Mm.
and that's where the bags came from.
I love that.
So hence the importance of the stickers. This is just a collision tag for the sticker plane,
Hmm.
so I can tell Cinema4D where's the collision object.
Nice.
As you can see, like the process is, I try to make it as simple as possible.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let me show you here on this ego piece. If Cinema4D allows it, of course. Yeah, so this one is a bit better to explain because it's already made.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, the thing I was doing with the collision tags, I also like this one right here.
Mm.
The checkboard, where is it? Just linking textures. Well, bad example, but yeah, this one is here, so I can show you. This is literally just, again, a tramp stamp that I made on Photoshop and then made an alpha for it that just cuts the plane.
Mm.
This is the process for the stickers.
Very effective.
Yeah, it's very effective. Obviously, I had some bumps, some
My ego is
roughness.
not my amigo.
Yeah, it's from a song. What else? Let's see. These imaginary. Actually, this might be, if not my favorite, one of my favorites. Like the drops here just work perfectly. And as you can see, I don't know if you can show like maybe I can show the final image.
Yeah, please do.
Like these numbers are these planes again with that opacity, the opacity trick.
Mm.
But again, this was all made in DAZ, the characters, and in Marvelous, the bag.
Super cool. I'm sure it was a lot of work to get these like really nice
Yeah,
bunching.
this one took like 2 days or so to get like to this state.
Yeah, I mean, there's something really beautiful about the simplicity of what you're doing, but also kind of the complexity that you're adding into it. I for you, simple is one thing, because also you've been doing it again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the point where it's like, oh, this is simple, but really it's like a super intense process. I think that's kind of a good sign of a seasoned artist, somebody who really understands what they're doing and kind of like is able to articulate themselves through their tool, whatever the tool may be. In this case, Cinema4D, Marvelous DAZ, all those things you're showing us. So I think simplicity in this case is not necessarily like, doesn't necessarily, it's not a bad word. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, it's not like laziness or so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Tiago, thank you so much for showing us into your workflow. It's extremely inspiring. Really eye-opening. I'm 100% gonna open up Marvelous after this, and I have the show this weekend. I'm gonna make some fucking bags for this show.
Please do.
I'm gonna bag it up, bro. I'm gonna bag that shit up. And it's
if you need project files, let me know as well.
Thank you. it's such a cool effect, you know. And I love like I love learning these little things that kind of, you know, you can reuse again and again, and they're always gonna be different. Like what I sometimes like to do is I use Speed Tree, which is like a tree generating tool, you know, for making trees. And it's the same technique I'll use over and over again with like vines growing over my stage, but it's so effective, and because it's like somewhat procedural, somewhat generative, then every time it's different, you know. So like
Yeah,
even though
of
I'm
course.
doing the same effect of like vines growing over a stage, it's always different. And you know, I think that there's something to like the when you reuse something over and over again, because it's not like a preset that you could just add into it, you have to like do it again, then you find like something new every time, you know, and you kind of
Yeah.
like alter it and play with it, and then you just discover something new every time. I wanted to ask you, like, do you find the same thing in your replicating techniques? And what do you find allows you, like, or I should say, like, what is the give and take when you're replicating techniques? What are you giving and what are you receiving?
Um, I think I'm obviously getting a better understanding of the process. Um, I think it goes back to what I was telling you about the layer stacking layers. Actually, I'll give you this very objective example. Like here, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Um, Even though I always make pretty much the same process while making textures, there's always some more detail that I can add.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to show something. Not sure if I'm sharing the
Yeah.
screen.
You
Okay.
are now.
Okay. Can you see it here?
Yes.
Okay. Like going back to the scene. Here, for example, even though I make this every single day of my life, almost, there are always infinite possibilities here if I add a new mix material. For example, I can always add more. I can always do more. I will never make the same thing twice, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's the same process.
Do you like intuitively know if a technique is reusable? Like you find something, you're like, okay, that's really good, I'm going to use it again? Or is it almost like after you have the finalized thing and you're looking at it and you're like, oh, that looks cool as fuck, I better do that
Yeah,
again?
yeah, it's more like that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I try to be as like um how do you say it? Practical or pragmatic?
Yeah, pragmatic. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like fast
yeah.
and getting things done.
Yeah. I like to get things done. Not as fast as possible, as most effective as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to have almost like having like this Tiago's rules book. You know,
Mm,
I try to have like a few go to stuff that I
I
use all
love
the
that.
time.
I love
Yeah,
that.
just makes
Um,
it's time efficient.
yeah, it's efficiency, but it's like you said, it's like it's like putting yourself into like a bit of a container, and that kind of allows you to be more creative when you're trying new things.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, okay, so shifting a little bit out of where we were, you did mention you play guitar, and I also saw that on your website that you play guitar. Um, can you play a song? No, I'm just kidding. Can you?
The guitar is here.
No, it's too late. It's too late. Um, is there like a what's the word, like a reflection or like something similar when you're creating music to when you create art? Is there like some sort of like, you know, a similarity to that?
For me, I think the similarity is being an escape from whatever's happening in my life, of course. And the fact that I can, again, that I can build on something that I have already created, and finding some patterns of creation, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like I showed you on Cinema4D, I also have these like go-to patterns or go-to techniques while I'm making music. And that's why I love both things, honestly. It just complements everything.
Interesting. Do you find yourself like taking breaks from making art and playing music? It like just shifts your perspective, I would imagine.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
When you're playing, like when you're getting deep into art and you want to shift your perspective, you can just play guitar. I'm sure that kind of helps
Oh
change
yeah,
your whole experience,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The, like it's cliche, of course, but like playing guitar for like 2 hours just takes me to a different place, always.
I can
So
imagine.
I can get back to Cinema 4D.
Do you ever perform?
I used to actually. I used to be in a band, but then just
Nice.
I quit pretty much. Yeah, and now I've been working on solo songs for like 2 or 3 years. I guess they will never come out, but yeah, it's a nice like segment to my art, I guess.
Hmm. I mean, I could see easily. I could see you combining the two in some way. You know, in the future, with some touch design or audio reactive kind of
Hmm.
tramp stamp music. You know, could be pretty cool.
Tramp stamp core or something like
Tramp
that. Yeah.
stamp, exactly. Speaking of tramp stamps, what do you like? What is it about the aesthetic of the human anatomy that fascinates you so much? Like, what is so attractive about the human anatomy that makes you want to use that as your centerpiece in almost all your pieces, whether it's a face or a body?
I think it's the fact that it's relatable. You know, um, well, I do like abstract art and surrealism and everything. I'm quite objective, I guess. I've always Renaissance paintings, for example.
Mm,
I love Caravaggio. I love Da Vinci. I love like Michelangelo. All those guys. So in a way, it's like my attempt at replicating that stuff. And speaking of music, by the way, it's like I love instrumentals, but I need to fully enjoy a song. I think I need the voice, you know. I need something to
interesting.
relate, and I think the human figure is that in art for me.
Interesting. Wow, that's such it really makes a lot of sense with your art, like that kind of abstraction organicness, you know, like yeah, it's abstract and yeah, it's like, you know, this plasticky
It's
shrink wrap
fictional
kind of
and everything.
feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah, but at the same time you're right, it like draws you in with this kind of like natural relatable thing. I love that idea. Is that
yeah.
something that
I like people to open Instagram and be like, "Oh, that happened to me," you know. I want people to feel connected with a plastic bag, as weird as it sounds, you know. Yeah,
is that something that you kind of figured out over time, or did you always have this kind when you were drawing, did you draw the human anatomy?
yeah, a lot.
Hmm.
At that time, I was just like trying to figure out stuff because, you know, like drawing hands and stuff, drawing, you know, a face is very tough.
It's hard, yeah.
Right? So it was always like a challenge, and
You like
I'm that
challenges.
guy. I need I need the challenge. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Um, okay, so shifting away from art, I want to talk a little bit about social media. You have a very powerful following, you know, and you're posting a lot, and you have a great reach and engagement. Any tips or kind of like things that you've picked up along the way that you found that benefit your social media, and also some things to stay away from?
Um, I used to say like post every day or post as much as you can, but Instagram changed the algorithm recently. So what I've been doing recently, and I mean like last month, is trying trial reels, which is a new feature. It only shows your work to non-followers, so you don't get stuck in the loop of Instagram only showing your work to 5% of your followers. And I was losing like 30, 40 followers a day.
Hmm.
Now I'm getting like 100 new ones. But
Interesting.
at the same
Trial
time,
reels.
it's a new feature you have to enable.
Okay.
When you're about to write the description, you have like a
Hmm.
shit ton of options,
Right.
and you select and you enable trial reels. The thing
Interesting.
is, you're gonna have to make a, a lot of shit content,
Hmm.
and I mean it's kind of good because you have to make shit content in case you want to stay like relevant in social media, but that also like gives you time to work on a piece for like a month
Hmm.
because trial reels aren't shown to your followers, so you can kind of like break your Instagram page in two. Like, this is for my followers, people who know me, they know what I like to work with, and these fucking TikTok videos are for my non-followers to come to my page. But yeah, that's like the new trick apparently.
Interesting. Do you is there anything else that you've picked up over time that you kind of find? Is there some sort of practices that you use?
Yeah, honestly, if I was a more like extrovert person, I would definitely show like my face a lot more. I
Hmm.
would talk to people a lot more. Like it's important to like to sell yourself as a person, to
Yeah,
your audience.
the brand.
Yeah, like engage, make Q&As, all that stuff.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, it's such a crazy world. It's like, the more I like the more you look into it, the more you realize that you have to like work hard at it. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
like the more I realize that, the more I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's true, man. Yeah. Like I made my Instagram like I don't know 10 years ago because my girlfriend was like, "Yeah, come on, create an Instagram." And I was like, "Okay, sure," because I would never have created an Instagram, and I would never thought that I would like make my work life around Instagram because I don't like social media.
Hmm.
I know a lot of like this people say this a lot, but I really don't like social media.
Yeah,
I get on
sucks.
Instagram and I like 5 seconds in and I'm pissed. That's something,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I just find myself wasting hours of my time
hours. Yeah,
scrolling, and I'm like, okay, wait. I opened the app to post something or to do work, and then I'm like wasting my fucking time sitting on the couch
yeah.
scrolling, and it's like you don't notice it, you don't realize it. You can tell yourself. I even tried putting timers on my apps,
Hmm.
and then the timer finishes, and I just
It's
add more time.
yeah, it's even
It's
worse.
like
It's like, oh, cool. No, so now I know I'm like over the time
wasting.
I'm
Yeah,
supposed.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like it's official now. I'm time wasting.
It's really a tough one because it's like either you're in or you delete everything and you're not on any social media, and like
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you can succeed this way as an artist. I feel like it's becoming harder and harder to not have some sort of social media following. Maybe obviously it depends what you're doing, but I think as if you're trying to be an independent artist as a freelancer and trying to get work, like you said, most of your work came from Instagram. Um, are you do you follow certain pages to make sure that you're
Hmm.
like on top of things?
Yeah. I like to follow studios, like 3D studios, agencies, like Man versus Machine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, whenever I see like a young 3D artist, it's just like when you like you're a musician, you want to follow like the young musicians. You
Up
want
and
to stay on
coming,
top of, yep. You want to stay on
for
top of
sure.
what's cool, I guess. I'm not old, but it's different. Like it's completely
Yeah,
different.
of course.
Jess Wiseman is a great example of that. Like she's 22, 23, people look up to her, and we need to know what's up, and we need to know what she's getting into it, because it's probably what's going to be cool next, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's like leading the way in some way.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's impossible, like it's impossible to be always ahead of the curve, so be ahead of the curve when you can, and just
yeah,
follow along when you can't, I guess.
for sure. Um, cool. So, kind of reaching the end here. I wanted to kind of retouch a little bit what you talked about before with your hitting the limits and pushing yourself to the limits, and reaching points that are challenging. Um, you know, you take creative breaks. Do you find that you have to like remind yourself to take breaks, or what are some ways that you can train yourself, for lack of a better term, to take these breaks and not hit your limits?
Um, it's difficult to answer because there's a very fine line between like the limit and going over the limit. Like for example, right now I'm kind of like resting a bit.
Mm.
I'm building my brand. I'm working on new stuff. I'm kind of changing the style of my work. Um, but it's difficult. You open Instagram, and again you want to stay on top of what's happening. You want to keep getting better and everything. But I try, honestly, I try my best to take like whenever I can, like a week, at least a week, or at least have one day per week where I don't think about 3D or anything. It's it's difficult. I know. Like I'm a freelancer. I work from home. It's a luxury to have like one free day a week. I know it's difficult, but it's very important,
What do you
because
do when you take that
I'm
time
really
off?
afraid of going back to the state I was like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's very important for me to take the break. I just like, I don't know, I make music, play guitar, or
Just
even if
hang out.
it's 3D, like 3D with no pressure,
Right.
just trying new stuff, trying a new HDRI, trying a new plugin, whatever it is.
When you get client work, are you usually like hyper focused on that? I'm a crammer, so I'll wait till like the deadline and then work 24 hours. It's kind of just like how I am. I can't kick that habit.
Yeah,
um is that, do you find that for yourself as well?
I used to be like that, but with 3D, I can't be,
Right, the
because
render.
uh, the renders, and I'm always saying this, but whatever can go wrong goes wrong always with 3D.
It's true.
Like the models, the rendering,
Mm,
optimizing, whatever it is, it always goes wrong.
mm,
Um, and I have this crazy fear of missing a deadline,
mm,
so I start working ASAP, and I work
mm.
as much as possible. Just like fear of not disappointing, but I'm a freelancer, so the fear of clients not coming back,
Of course, of course,
Yeah,
it's
and
very
I've been a
important.
freelancer for like 7 years, and I'm still afraid
Nice.
like every month that I will not get clients next month. So
Do
I always
you
try to deliver the best.
What do you do to get clients? Do you have like places that you reach out to?
Yeah, like now I have some like regular clients,
Nice.
mostly musicians. But yeah, like every time I need new clients, I just cold DM people. I just email brands, I just email agencies, I just DM artists. Usually it works. Like last week, I just DM like 20 DJs or so. Because DJs need, you know better than me, DJs
Yeah,
need
they need content
content
for
like
sure.
constantly. Yeah.
And from those 20, did you get anything?
I got like 5 replies, like
Nice.
positive replies. So it's a
Nice.
pretty good ratio. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great ratio. DJs don't really want to spend money all the time, but
Mhm.
I guess if you're finding the high end ones, with that have some nice budgets, then that could definitely that can definitely be great.
I mean,
And now,
but it's very true. DJs don't love spending a lot of money, but there's always something that we can make happen.
totally.
Even if it's an already made image. I do sell like quite a few already made images. I just sell the licenses to use the images that I post.
Nice.
Usually that's the go-to.
Smart. Yeah, and I think nowadays with the sphere and with bigger and bigger shows, people are more aware of like what is real content and how important it is to have your own brand of content behind you when you're playing music, and that shit costs money. If you want it good, it's going to cost money. So yeah, I think it's really smart that you're reaching out to those
Yeah,
people.
if you need a 3-minute music video, you can expect to spend $100.
Yeah. Better be spending a lot more than that for a 3-minute music video.
Yeah, I get so many DMs like that. It's funny.
Of course. As we're talking, I'm just reminding myself I need to answer this guy. But I'm like I know the answer is gonna be like I know what the answer is gonna be. So it's almost like I don't want to be a dick. I don't want to like ignore them. But at the same time, it's like, how much effort am I gonna put into like answering this person when I know that they're not gonna want to spend more than like $100 on something, and
it's
like
going nowhere, and you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm like,
You never know, right?
You never know. Well, Tiago, it's been super nice to meet you and talk to you, and
Likewise.
you're very inspiring and super talented.
Thank
So
you so much.
I'm sure we will have you on again at some point. And
I would love to.
I love Portugal. It's one of my favorite places. We may one day, inshallah, move there. So maybe we'll be neighbors at one point.
I'll be here. I'll be here waiting, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. You're great at what you do, so it was a pleasure.
Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Manus Smash for the intro and outro music. Thank you to Sophie Holder for the amazing internship helping us with all the episodes. And thank you to the guests for coming on and spending time with us. See you next week.